Hi, this is DrayYoutube584, and if you're an administrator approving this video, I don't own these pictures. No, the credit goes to the people who do own them. Do you remember when I made a video about my days in 2019 that were great? But now I'll talk about days of that year that were not so great. You can't have a good day every day. See, let's look at the sign. There will be good days and bad days. So in this video, I will talk about my top 10 least favorite days I had that year. I did it with this year's 2020 for 3 reasons. First of all, I did a best list of my top 10 days in 2019 like I already mentioned. Second of all, this 2020 list would be filled with many days from April because that month was torture for me. And third of all, there are 3 days from that list I'd rather not talk about that are from May. So let's get started on this not so happy list. Number 10. July 24th. So every year I go to a summer program in school. It's not like a summer school for bad grades. Rather, it's one where we do cool activities and the teachers help us out. Most of my days that year in summer school were fairly good, but not this one. Now, I was playing a game in my class called Spoons. See the picture? I already played it in 2018 in regular school on January 21st and it did not go well. Whenever the game would get intense, my classmates would scream, and at one point all my classmates screamed super loud while playing the game, and because I'm sensitive to noises due to autism, it made me very upset. I had the same problem this day, and I couldn't participate because one particular kid was being too noisy. Also, when we were in the gym at school, I got hit with a ball in the head and got angry about it. Things got worse when I went home though. It had nothing to do with what happened in school. I was told to do something outside with the trash can and I didn't do it, and things didn't go good from there. A lot of stuff happened I didn't like this day. However, I'd rather relive this day than any other the days in the top 9. Number 9. November 14th. The day before this day, my math teacher gave the class a quiz to take it home. Unfortunately, I turned it in this day and I got the worst math test grade I have ever gotten in my life. I got a 20 on it. I only got 2 problems right out of 10. After I got by my grade, I started to have a panic attack and I had to leave the room to calm down. I didn't have a good evening either. My bulldog named Dino had surgery and my dad and I were getting him from PetSmart. I remember in the car, Dino was going crazy because of his surgery, and it was an unhappy ride back because we were both trying to calm him down, and we couldn't. It was a stressful day, but this month had a day that was worse. Number 8. November 30th. When I said there was a day in November 2019 worse than the 14th, I was referring to this day. I had an awful morning that day. I went to Dunkin' Donuts with my dad and I got a donut from there. Then we went home, and while I was eating the donut, I was drinking milk and I spilled it all over my dad's papers. Then obviously they were all spoiled and soaking wet and we had to throw them out. I got into big trouble for doing that. I was super mad and I was upset for about 30 minutes about the situation. Fortunately, I had a much better night. I was dancing to my classmates' mashup songs on YouTube while I was at my grandparents' house. But the problem is that my night wasn't nearly as good as my morning was bad. So this still wasn't a good day at all. Good thing Dad and I got over it after some time. After not long. Number 7. August 28th. If you haven't seen my top 10 best days of this year video yet, August 29th was a great day for me because I was camping with my family. But this was the day we were getting to the campsite, and this one wasn't very great. This was a bad one. While we were getting prepared to go there was a lot of bad stuff happening. Both Dad and I were getting frustrated about many things, and it was very stressful. Then when we finally got there at like 8:30 at night, I thought all problems were over, right? Not quite. My dog Dino, whom I mentioned before, was grabbing onto someone we were camping with. Because of me being autistic, I'm sensitive to when people use bad language. So when my dog attacked her, she screamed, "Dino, get the heck off of me." She didn't really say heck. She said the worst curse word ever, one that I will not say. No, that made me very angry, and everyone could tell. I had to lay in a hammock to calm myself down. What made it upset me more was the fact that I went through all that stress to get there, and that happens. I was hurt by the fact that she screamed the F-bomb over something that I thought was stupid. Fortunately, I had a much better night, and the next day was miles better than this. Number 6. August 31st. I just talked about how I had a rough time going on my camping vacation, but was leaving there any better? No, it was not. It was actually worse. Right as we were about to leave, we got our keys locked in one of our cars. To make things worse, we had the dogs in the car. I had a bad feeling we'd be stuck there all day, so I had a panic attack and I wouldn't stop panicking for at least an hour. Fortunately, we had someone come over to unlock the car, so my dad had to pay a huge amount of money for not leaving the campsite on time, and I couldn't calm down until they came. At least the rest of my day was pretty good, but I had an awful morning. Number 5. October 17th. Ever since I was a kid, I've been taking medicine in the morning before school that would help me with my anxiety and would help me to concentrate better. On this day, I tried taking a new type of medicine. Apparently taking that medicine was a bad idea. I didn't know for sure if it caused me to have the kind that I had, but it's possible. Back when I was in middle school, I had 4 periods each day in school. Well, we called them blocks. In my first 2 periods on this day, I felt tired and cranky in school. I wasn't acting like my usual self, and I was in a bad mood for my first 2nd period. My 3rd period was fine, but things got really bad in my 4th period. In my 4th and final period. For some reason in class, I thought I got a splinter on my finger from my pencil, and it happened while my CST teacher was in there. I had to walk out of the classroom with her, and apparently she said I was screaming in class. I didn't think I was being as loud as I was. I rarely act like that in class, I'm telling you. I then felt humiliated that I act like that in front of everyone, so I started panicking and I didn't want to go back to class. I was then crying with regret and embarrassment. I also remember when I came home, I forget why, but I also had an incident at home as well. I feel like that might have been triggered by the medicine as well. I learned to never take that medicine again because it might have triggered this horrible day. Number 4. March 4th. If you've seen my video of my top 10 best days in 2019, you could tell that I went on a vacation in Florida with Mom and John and I had a fantastic time. But what about the day I left the vacation? Was it on the par with the days I slept there? Absolutely not. Not even close. This was a horrible way to end the vacation, and it was even worse than the end of my camping vacation that I mentioned earlier. Things were going alright until we got to the airport to get our flight back. I already mentioned earlier in this video that I am slightly autistic, and because of it, I am highly sensitive to screaming and crying babies and kids. I already told you a story about this day in my Screaming Kids rant video. During the time we were at the airport, we heard a baby little kid screaming and crying in an infuriating tone constantly. I'm serious. Every time one would either stop crying or go away, we would hear another one begin or come nearby. And it was driving me absolutely insane, and it was really hard to tolerate. Then when we got off the flight to the other airport, there was another crying baby on the escalator with us, and I couldn't take it anymore. Things got really bad from here. I could no longer keep my control, and I lost it and flipped out, which made Mom and John livid with me, and I got in trouble at the airport. Also, my math teacher gave me homework the day before I left vacation to do before I got back, and I was frustrated with it that night because it was too confusing. It's odd how 5 days that have been in a row that were so good, I'm counting the day before we left because I was excited to go. And it's weird how this terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day came afterward. Number 3. March 18th. So I already mentioned that they had a March that went far wrong, but then there's this day, which was a lot worse. March 18 was bad for me, and 2018 and 2020 as well, but they were still both much better than this one. What happened, and for many days before this day, was that I was doing something really bad and wrong at lunch. I won't say what I was doing, but that did happen. This may be the stupidest thing I've ever done in my entire life. One day, however, I got called by my social studies teacher, and I was sent to the office to tell my vice principal about what happened. Then when I got home on this day, I got into big trouble, and I was upstairs in my room crying and crying and crying and crying with extreme regret. I've never felt such intense regret before, and I was absolutely devastated about my actions. From that day on, I sat in a different spot at lunch so that wouldn't happen anymore. Number 2. December 12th. If you've seen my best days in 2019 video, you can see December 2019 was a great month for me. Not every day in that month was great though, because this one was horrible. No other bad day from this year affected such a large portion of it. My morning and afternoon this day were fine, but my evening was bad, and my night was atrocious. I didn't usually get very much homework in middle school, but on this day I got an insane amount of homework. There was so much of it to do that day I was hopeless. I was upstairs panicking about it. I was mainly stressed with this one worksheet I had to do for social studies. I didn't understand how to do it at all, and I needed my dad to help me with it. We were sitting on the couch for nearly 3 hours. Those hours involved some of the most severe stress and anxiety I've ever been through. I was up until 12:30, 30 minutes past midnight. Stress and anxiety I went through that night of my homework was so extreme that I actually got sick the next morning. The next morning, on December 13th, I was nauseous for a couple hours from what I went through the night before. And I know I'm not the only one who went through a day like this. A lot of teenagers probably did. Before I get to my number 1 worst day of the entire year, I'll give you 5 honorable mentions, or in this case, dishonorable mentions. February 14th. This was not a good Valentine's Day for me. I was sick with the flu on this day. I felt really tired in the morning, and I had to go home from school early because I felt sick. I also had high fever. That night, my body temperature reached 103.1 degrees Fahrenheit. At least I felt better the next day. Thank goodness this didn't happen 2 weeks later. If so, we would have had to postpone our flight to Florida, and that would have been awful. May 5th. My friend on YouTube, the Purple Stone Kenny 07, said this was his second best day of the year. However, it wasn't good for me. The reason it was his second best day of his year is because I think he said he went to Las Vegas. But it wasn't good for me. I was hanging out with my family on this day, and I was having a good day until I found out about someone in my family I didn't know about passed away years ago. That made me devastated, and I had to go into another room. I couldn't stop crying. I needed to talk to an adult to help me to feel better about it. At least my friend had an awesome day. August 9th. On this day, my dad had me ride my bike with my cousins and put signs on people's doors. The problem was that I had to stop my bike every couple of seconds and put a sign on my neighbor's doors. It was also very hot outside, and I was sweating to death, and I couldn't figure out what I was supposed to do. I kept hanging it wrong over and over again. I just wanted to walk so badly, but it was too late because I took my bike out already. This was like December 12th, except I'm being physically drained with stress instead of mentally. At least I had a good rest of the day. October 25th. It's weird how October 26th was an honorable mention for my best days, and yet this was a dishonorable mention on here. I had a bad night. John and I started getting unfriendly with each other over something small. I said something rude to John, and that's what triggered it. I said, "Don't you start," to him. How it all ended was when John told me that I won't have my cousins over at my house tomorrow if I don't stop. So I stopped being rude. I admit it was not kind of me to talk to him like that, and I understand why it upset him. November 15th. In social studies class in school that day, I had a worksheet to do in class that I couldn't get done because it was too hard, so I was whining and complaining the entire time. Then at home, I was filled with regret for how I was disrupting class by whining about how I couldn't understand the worksheet. I even messaged my teacher through Gmail I was sorry. I had the better rest of the day, but I had a bad afternoon. Now it's time to reveal my number one absolute worst day of the entire year. That day goes to, I'll do a slow drum roll because this is not a good number one. October 3rd. I've had some unpleasant experiences this year, which is normal, everybody does. However, this is without a doubt the absolute worst day I've had this year. It was absolutely horrendous and one of the worst days I've ever had. I went to school this day, and my day at school was fine, but when I got home is when things turned into a problem. I went on my YouTube Studio app and checked my recent comments from others on my videos, and I saw one comment with another YouTube writing a bunch of disgusting and horrible language to me. Fortunately, I made up with him in May 2020 and we became friendly. Problem solved now. But that day when I saw the comment, I was absolutely devastated and absolutely enraged by it. I will admit I greatly overreacted, and I wouldn't be that upset if it happened now, but I've never been cyberbullied in nearly such a harsh way before. At least we're no longer enemies because I talked to him about it. And now we're nice. I was so deeply hurt by that comment. It was one of the most upset moments I've ever been through. That alone made this day terrible. But I also had a horrible night, which made this day worse. And the reason why my night was ruined wasn't even because of what happened in the afternoon. It's because I realized I had a huge homework assignment for music class that I didn't realize I had to do until like 9 p.m. So I had an enormous panic attack. It was possibly the most extreme stress I've ever been through. I also broke my glasses while I was panicking about my homework, which made me panic even more severely. I went to bed in a very unhappy mood. If either one of the incidents this day happened, it would have been enough to bring this day in the top 5. So the fact that both of them happened makes this day one of the biggest abominations of a day that I've ever had. Thank goodness this day ended at midnight and it's in the past now. Please tell me in the comments if you can remember any any bad days that you had this year. Bye guys. Remember what eat, sleep, YouTube, repeat.